What you're about to experience are my opinions and truths. I'm suggesting they're possibilities for you to consider, in which you can then come up with your own logical conclusions. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow decoder around the world, wherever you may be, both male and female. My name is Logan, and this is Decode Your Reality, and today we're going to be breaking down and decoding the final boss. This will be Final Boss Decoded, and a big shout out to my great friend Jordan at Waters Above for inspiring me to do this presentation. I really started decoding this first. Before I listened to Jordan on one of his lives on Saturday, probably like 2 weeks ago, this is what I originally started with. I started breaking down color. And then when I heard him talk about the final boss in one of his live podcasts, and him saying, you're the final boss. It really kind of just gelled with this presentation, and here we are, ladies and gentlemen, Final Boss Decoded. And I'm going to show you some extremely jaw-dropping information, and hopefully this is going to open up your eyes to have your DNA activation upgrade. That's exactly what I feel a lot of us are getting in this present moment, is some DNA activation upgrades. And a lot of it has to do with color, right? Because color it's a frequency, it's a wave, but it's needed to observe this reality. And we use our eyes for a lot of what we utilize here in this reality. And then it goes into the brain, and the pituitary is activated, the thalamus, there's a lot of moving parts. So this is going to be Final Boss Decoded, ladies and gentlemen. As I say often, get yourself strapped in, get settled in, put on a pair of headphones, block out the outside world. This one's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to open up your eyes to a whole different meaning of things beyond what I've been showing you here. So let's start off right here with some Roy G Biv. Now, in the world of graphic design, which is kind of what I'm in as well, this is a common acronym used for the first letter of each word of the 7 colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Roy G Biv, and as fate would have it, using the oldest known numerology cipher on the planet, Chaldean, it's a 22, and that matches the number 79. So we take numerology, the science of numbers, we take something from real life, so to speak, and we bring it into mathematics to measure that. And you can see that this mighty number 79, which leads to a lot of it's gold, but it leads to many more things, and I'm going to show you that and open up a different world for you here during this presentation. But clearly you could see that Roy G Biv, the acronym for the colors of the rainbow, the first letters, which are the cornerstones, that is the first letter of each word, called the cornerstone in numerology. These are the rudders of the ship that direct. You can do this with your name, your first, middle, last name. You have your first letter of each of those words. Those are the rudders of the ship that direct the energies. Well, 79 being the 22nd prime number. So we're going to go somewhere here with this, but let's start off with the tarot, because the beautiful tarot, how amazing it is in describing our reality. And the Fool card it does have the 0 on it, but typically there's a very popular way to observe it, it being card number 22. So it follows the world and it dumps at position 22. And this is kind of interesting because we are light being slowed down into physical matter, spirit into matter, and we become the Fool. We become lead, gold into lead, lead to gold. That's what this whole reality is all about, energetic exchange, yada, yada, yada. But when we do the G Biv and we say the words from the numbers, going back to numerology, now we're speaking the spell of G Biv, 2713216. It becomes the number 122. And how big of a number is this one here when you apply it to alchemy? Because alchemy is really a huge instrument in figuring out how this reality works. We go to this 51st element called antimony. It comes from the words antimonos, meaning not alone. The icon for this element is the all-seeing eye of Horus, Royal Society of Chemistry, right off the website there. And of course, if you cut your brain in half, every single one of you will have something very similar to what this looks like, the all-seeing eye of Horus, every single one of you. So the final boss is kind of leading to your brain, which provides feedback and has some sensors in it, thalamus, pituitary, the whole 9 yards. But this means not alone. So the voice in your head, see, I say that owns you. But of course, all that matters is making the truth your own, and it's all up to your reality. So essentially, it's a contradiction. Voice in your head owns you, but you're the final boss. Let's keep going with this as we move through this presentation. So let's go back to this 79 and 22 from this G Biv and get into some more alchemy here. Now, the 79 obviously leads to gold, as most of you know now. 79 is the element gold. It comes from the Latin word aurum. That's why it has the AU there. Aura, aurum. Gold is the sun, the rays of the sun. It's light. Light provides color. These are kind of no-brainers. But then we have to use our brain to, produce the images that we have with the light coming into the black suns, which are the pupils. So we get this element sodium, which ties to the brain through alchemy, through numerology. And, you bring in theology, Jesus saying, ye are the salt of the earth. We also can bring in this element right here, which is the counterpart to the sun, because selenium comes from the Greek word selene, which means moon. And the moon and the sun, these are the Ark of the Covenant. And these, one provides light during the night, one provides light during the day. Selenium having one of its isotopes, 79. So you can clearly see the sun and the moon, obviously they work in unison. When there's a full moon, the sun is directly opposite that in an astrological chart. The phases of the moon, you can easily see the degrees as it moves through the charts. So it's very interesting, all these connections. But what I want to introduce to you now is another element that has the 79, and that is bromine. What's up, bro? Bromine's average or most abundant atomic mass is 79. And just like that, we have, see these numbers, that's why these numbers encroach. So we have, obviously we can take a look at selenium having the 79 tied to gold, the sun and the moon. That's kind of a no-brainer. But then we look at bromine being after the 34. So 34 and 35, of course, that's going to give you 69. 69 is going to be tied to the moon and the brain. The brain is the 96 or the 69, the left and right hemispheres of the brain. So we have bromine here tied to sodium, because sodium has the atomic mass of 22. We can even put titanium in here. But sodium's referencing our brain, which is utilized for light coming into this reality, for you to be a boss here in this reality. And when you do the alchemy of bromine and sodium, 79 and 22, you're going to get 102.9, these two here, which is going to lead to this 45th element called rhodium. So that's one way to look at this, is the alchemy of the atomic masses. But if we add up 35 and the 11, the protons, we're going to get 46, which is a number that is going to go after rhodium. And just like that, we're going to have this element right here called palladium. So as I have often been showing, many of you great decoders have been showing, numbers encroach, they pair. 1 and 2 go together, 3 and 4 go together, 40 and 41 go together, 45 and 46 go together. They pair up, just like that's what we're designed to do, pair up with somebody, get into a relationship with somebody. We're not really designed to be alone. So 45 and 46 are found from the atomic masses of adding up bromine and sodium, and the 35 and 11 being 46 for the protons, and then we get palladium. So we have palladium, which comes from Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom, which is tying into our brain. Athena was Jupiter's favorite. Athena has an owl as the mascot. The owl represents wisdom. But this is really where it gets interesting, ladies and gentlemen, is this word simulation, which is what we're in. We're in a computer simulation, I feel, that's made to look real, but it's a movie. It's a lot of moving parts and adjectives to describe this reality. But you can see simulation is 35, bromine is 35. Bromine's got the 79, 79 is the 22nd prime number, and there's the 22, and brain is 11. So how does the simulation work? Well, it's through the brain. This mechanism right here is what perceives the colors and uses all the senses, the frequencies, the waves to process into the brain, and it gives us this reality called life. So it's this 45 and 46, which are massive here for this presentation. And I'm going to show you this now, bringing it into the golden ratio, which is absolutely huge with this part of the source code. The golden ratio, the measurement of nature. The 1.6180, yada, yada, yada. And hopefully you're using it for your decoding. But what I've decided to do, because these two elements, 45 and 46, are tied to the simulation and our brain, bromine and sodium. And so the 45th and 46th digits right here, as fate would have it, look at what they occupy. So we got 46 total digits here in the golden ratio. And the 45th and 46th digit is 7 and 9, which we go right back to bromine, which we can go right back to selenium and gold. So you can see the sun, the moon, and then bromine, which is the simulation. The sun and the moon they're part of the construct of the simulation. And then our brain is the Ark of the Covenant below. The sun and the moon are the Ark of the Covenant above. The brain is the Ark below, the left and right hemispheres of the brain. This is clearly what this is saying. Now, when you add up all 46 total digits, you get the mighty 2. This is absolutely huge, ladies and gentlemen. So please take notes, pay attention, press pause if you have to, because we're getting into kind of computer science here now, right? 226 is the total of all 46 digits where this number 79, which is gold, which is the simulation, is found, which is the makeup of these two elements, rhodium and palladium. And so it leads to this element right here, which is absolutely huge in this reality because it's the 88th element. The 88th element. And, I got another decode coming out on Scripted Reality 7, but the code that rules the world is 88. It's tied to yttrium and computer. The folks, we're living inside of a computer. I as far as trying to prove that, well, I'm showing you the support here. But anyway, the big takeaway here, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that radium, this 226, it's most abundant. It's approximately lasts 1,600 years. It's called its half-life, meaning half of it decays down in 1,600 years. Now you would think, okay, well, that's not a big deal. Well, when you take a look at the 1,600 inside the golden ratio, it certainly tells the story. 1,600 appears at the 880th decimal digit, which ties to its protons. How about that? Ties right to the protons of its half-life, found from gold here at 46 digits, equaling 226. Now, what's even more fascinating about these, you already have your jaw on the floor here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's bring in some mainstream here, some real-life stuff. How about these two organizations right here, obviously playing tribute out to the Egyptian sun god Ra? Obviously, it doesn't get any more apparent than that. The White House, the largest military, the most powerful military in the world, located in Washington, D.C., the address, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The largest collector of artificial intelligence in the world, over in Mountain View, California, 1600 Amphitheater Way. Do you think this is an accident? Do you think the White House chose the 1600 because they knew that the half-life of radium was 1600? Did Google know this? Well, you got the largest collector of artificial intelligence data in the world, and you got the strongest military in the world, both having an address of 1600, which matches the half-life of the Egyptian sun god radium. Now, folks, it doesn't get any more clearer than this, but when you go into astrology, you can clearly see what the White House and Washington, D.C. are paying tribute to, which is Ra, because the White House, the construction started on October 13th, 1792. Here's the astrological map, and you can see clearly that the sun is inside Lib Ra. I'm using Vedic sidereal astrology. Even if you use tropical, it's going to go 24 degrees. It will still be in Lib Ra. And right across the way, forming a symbiotic relationship in the fifth house, is the opposite of the sun, the cold Saturn, Chronos, Father Time. Chronos representing government. You know, government, if you go to numerology and you type in the word government, you're going to get 46. You see? So you go back to here, and you could clearly see 46 digits of the golden ratio end up becoming 226, which is Ra's element, and it's 1600 years. So these are obviously very much in tune with the source code, like plugged in directly. You can't get any more in your face than what I'm showing you here. Google having that address, the White House having that address, the largest collector of artificial intelligence, the largest military in the world, obviously paying tribute to Ra. And so what is the Egyptian sun god Ra? Well, again, breaking ground, the White House. I haven't looked up Google, but, you know, and then just for icing on the cake, this is the constellation of Lib Ra. Well, where do you think it's going to fit? It's going to fit right over. There's the divine triangle right on top, right over the top of the White House. It's right there. You can't miss it. So it's built, it's got Lib Ra, and it's Lib Ra. Ra. So these are kind of no-brainers. Now the cat's out of the bag. Maybe this is already old news. But if you're seeing this for the first time, well, I mean, this is not the first time I've shown some of this stuff, but in detail, in depth like this, it is. And there's so many other moving parts to this. You have Pallas, which is Athena here in Virgo in the 10th house. 10th house is ruled by Kronos, so you would just come right back down here. Kronos is in the 5th house, which is ruled by Leo. Leo's ruled by the sun. The sun is opposite of Saturn. So these are obviously no-brainers here. When you're looking at the astrological map. I mean, even have Neptune there, the planet of dreams, Jupiter, the mighty Jupiter, Venus, the Ankh symbol, and the midheaven, all in this house of Lib Ra when they broke ground for the White House. There is the symbol of Lib Ra right there. It doesn't get any more clearer than that, ladies and gentlemen. So, you know, the question would be, you know, what really is Ra? Is it the sun? Is it tied to Saturn? Is it Saturn? Well, you got to be the judge of that, but these are clear pieces here. So let's get into the colors now, ladies and gentlemen. Let's really get into light. The final boss decoded. You're the final boss. Even though I believe your mind's not your own and you're being used, it's your reality, not my I'm just in your reality. I'm only in your reality because you invited me in by clicking on this video to watch it and to listen to it. And you still have to use logic and discernment to figure out what it is you're going to accept as your truth based upon what I'm showing you. But here is the 9 colors, including black and white, through the numerology, Chaldean, and the outcome that we get. Before I get into the outcome of the total numerology of all 9 words, I want to show you very simply how many letters there are in all the colors. 9 is the last number before you go back down to 10. So it's 0 through 9 or 1 through 9. There are the 9 colors: black, white, red, yellow, orange, green, blue, indigo, and violet. 46 total letters. 46 goes all the way back to Ra, the golden ratio, and gold, and the simulation, and our brains, and color. Okay, so it doesn't get any more clear. And you got the sun and the moon. These are all players in all this. Part of the celestials. This is all moving parts to this reality here. Doesn't get any more clearer than that. So when we bring the tarot into this to get the picture, part of the final boss, like what does it mean to be the boss here in this reality? Well, you got to make the truth your own, ladies and gentlemen. You just might be creating your own fractal, your own reality, and whatever you end up doing, you start creating and bringing into your own environment. That is possible. Because in the tarot, the 46 card clearly is an indicator of how beautiful this reality is. And did the writer wait? Did Arthur wait? Did he put the rainbow on this card specifically because he knew that all 9 colors had 46 total letters? Because the rainbow's right on the card. And the rainbow is what we're talking about here. All these colors in the background. 46. And this means happy home. This is the DNA card right here. The 10 of Cups. Really, really interesting. And then if we bring the cards of illumination, we have a different output here, but it's going to lead to the same thing, just in a different way. It's the 7 of Spades. That's card 46. We want to bring that into the tarot to get the picture. And there it is. It's card 57, the 7 of Swords. And the 57 in numerology is the Truman Show. So the Truman Show is what we're playing out. They did a great job of telling you that. You're in a movie. You're inside of a movie, folks. And you're the star of the movie. Some people don't act like stars, but if you turn off the mainstream and don't let that infiltrate your mind, you just may level up and get a DNA activation upgrade, and you'll have. And I speak from experience because that's what I've been doing, and my life has never been better. It's not always roses all the time, but for the most part, ladies and gentlemen, because this card right here in the tarot, it has a bad rap because a lot of tarot readers will say, well, it means deception. Well, you can clearly see that it's also mental strategy because this figure here is holding 5 swords, but he left 2 behind, which means the figure's going to return back to get the other 2. So this is a strategy card. And isn't that what your life is all about? I used to be a life strategist. This card is about mental strategy, besides the bad side, which does mean deception. All cards have a liability and asset tied to them. So it can mean deception, but it also means mental strategies. And that's what the color is all about, which comes into our eyes, shows us the picture. It's all about the motion picture, the Truman Show. And we have this double helix now. So our DNA, okay, through science and the structure code of that, the 2 base pairs, this was the bridge. How big alchemy is in all this? Adenine, cytosine, guanine, thymine, 106. Palladium has that 106. Palladium is 46. Remember, this is Athena, the goddess of wisdom. And 46 is tied to the words double helix. It doesn't get any more apparent than that. Remember, government is 46. Remember how many digits? 46. It leads to Ra. I've shown how big. Check out my DNA, decoded radium, and Ra in 88 was in there big time. So when we go a little bit further, ladies and gentlemen, and we start up here, and here's the breakdown of all 9 colors and the total outcome, it's 174. And, if you know what the 174 is, you're probably going to be laughing, and I'm going to be breaking this down a little bit if you don't know what that means. But what I decided to do, and I've been doing a hell of a lot of this, is going as much as I can into the golden ratio, because I feel this is where the source code is. Beyond the digits of pi, they go hand in hand, but the golden ratio to me is really the measurement of nature. So I went 174 digits into the golden ratio to match the numerology output of the 9 colors of the rainbow, including black and white, and we get a total of 810 when we add it up. So very simply, how do we say that? 810. You can say 810, but it's 810, and that equals 56. And how big has this been in the decodes that I've been doing for quite some time? Big shout out to Roland for introducing me to this lights, camera, action. The 56. Speed of light is 56. There's so many ways to look at this 56 here. I feel like this is the movie right here, and obviously tied to the colors of the rainbow, tied to you being the final boss, okay? So going back to this 46 letters, there's the total output. I'm gonna go back to this 174 here just a little bit to tie it together. We bring it once again into the string of the golden ratio. 46, where does that appear in the string of the golden ratio? Well, it starts at digit 71. Now I'm using the 1 point included in this because if you go measure it, it's going to be at this, it's going to say the 70th decimal digit. It won't include the 1 point. So I've had to adjust it to include the 1 point. So taking the 1 point all the way to the number 4 and the 6, it's the 71st decimal digit. And that links right to this 174 because it ties through alchemy into this big element called lutetium, which is one of Lucifer's numbers. Lucifer is known as the lightbringer. Well, what is light made up of? How about all these colors here? Absolutely, these colors are made up of light. And Lucy, Lucifer, doesn't get any more obvious than that right there. So we're going to really kind of hone in on this, but let's take a look at what we are. We're called human beings. And one of the ways that you can, the word for color is hue, but it's spelled H-U-E. And it's a 16, and then man is a 10, but when you reduce them down, 16, 1 plus 6 is 7, and then 10, you just drop the 0, and that's 1. And what do you have? 71. So what does it mean to be a human? What are we tied to? The colors of the rainbow, meaning that you're the final boss. And who is tied to the final boss? Lucifer. That's why I have been saying, be the best little devil you can be. Because, obviously Lucifer, through all the stories, and tied to the devil, right? Because it's light. That's what the devil is, folks. It's light. Light is the devil. As beautiful as it is. So let's get into some mathematics now for this final boss Decoded. As I've shown this many times, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper. 71 from this lutetium. 71 is the 20th prime number. And this guy right here, I don't even know if Thomas John Ellis knows this. I hope one day he gets to watch this. I guarantee, I'm pretty sure, I'm not going to say I guarantee, I'm pretty sure he has no clue that he's tied, how deeply woven he is into the code. His full birth name, Thomas John Ellis Hooper, this is his mother's maiden name. You add it on, it's 91. Well, what is 71 plus 20? It's 91. So you mean to tell me that lutetium, which starts with the letters LU, and he played Lucifer, which starts with the letters LU, is tied to through mathematics, and his name is 91 when you add 71 and 20 is 91? Is that an accident? Did they cast him based upon these pieces of information? There's way more than what I'm showing you here. As I've been showing, I broke Lucifer down twice, showing how all the characters in the cast, all being used, all selected by the supernatural, not by man alone. No way, no possible way. So let's get into what it means to be light slowed down into physical matter, because that's what this means, this 71 and 20. Lutetium means the light hue man, and then the 20 is going to link to alchemy and calcium. And what is calcium in our bodies? It's in our bones and teeth. So now you get to be a bag of bones. You get to be the skeletal structure. And I'm going on averages here, ladies and gentlemen, so please don't be the bones police and come and say, well, it's more than... I'm going on the averages here, okay? And there are around, that's why I'm saying there are around 206 bones in the body. And why I'm showing that here is because it leads to this element called lead. Lead has an atomic mass of 206.905, and then you get into lead to gold. Right? So calcium in the bag of bones, we become lead. And when you go back to gold, it's that energetic exchange. We're being used for our gold. That's why the Anunnaki story, the Anunnaki story is an energetic exchange. Lead to gold means your emotions giving off energy. You're a cell in a battery. You got trillions of cells in your body. You are a cell on this motherboard, and you're being harvested for your energy. And this is what this is all about. Now, lead is got an abbreviation of PB, which is the Latinized spelling of it, which is called plumbum. It's kind of a funny word. Well, plumbum is 33, and the majority of us have 33 vertebrae inside that bag of bones. And plumbum is kind of interesting because it matches the word lutetium, which is where this whole thing kind of started with the 71, tied to the colors of the rainbow and Lucifer. Tied to the Christ, because 33 was the age that Christ was crucified at, which is why I got that cross there. And then you got the last one. Keep your eyes right here, ladies and gentlemen. Bam! You get the final boss. So Who's the final boss in this reality? Well, again, big shout out to Jordan. Jordan's like, you're the final boss. I got inspired to do that. I think that the voice in your head is the final boss, but I say the voice in your head owns you. It's where do your ideas come from? But inevitably, you have to make the choices. They're yours, even if something's using you. I don't want to make the choices for you, so you're going to be the final boss, no matter which way you slice it, dice it. So final boss is this 33, which is, how many vertebrae most of us have in the spinal cord here, this is the tree of life, by the way, the spinal cord to the skull. And the 33 is really big because we go back to mathematics and, we know that the 137, which is a massive number tied to the fine structure constant in science and physics, 137 is the 33rd prime number. Well, this element right here, barium, is got this 137 on it, and it's the average, the most abundant atomic mass that barium has. Barium, I say, means going down in a hole. It's speared into matter. It has 56 protons, and that's lights, camera, action. So you can see the 33 leads to barium. Barium is the hole to go down to play the game. It's 56. And 56 is lights, camera, action. And it's also tied to the speed of light. See, 56, lights, camera, action, speed of light. There's a lot of other words that equal this 56, just showing you a few here tied to this final boss. So you end up coming down, becoming a bag of bones, and you need all these frequencies to live out your life, and color is one of them. So going back to these 206 bones in your body right here from calcium, tied to this number 71, tied to Lucifer and Lucy, tied to being a human. We have this lead here, and then we go to the teeth. Because calcium, according to what I've read, the majority of the calcium in the body is stored in the bones and the teeth. So let's take a look at how many teeth are in the mouth. Again, don't be the teeth police here. I'm not looking for corrections. I'm going on averages. There are around 32 teeth in the human body. So we go to sulfur. And the reason why I'm using sulfur, because I could use germanium, is because 206, there isn't a 206th element, so I wanted to keep it exact here. I wanted to keep it along the same lines. So it's sulfur, 16. And the word hell equals 16. It's really, really interesting. And Lucifer's spelling in numerology through the original Aramaic Hebrew, that's going to link to this number 16. But let's add these two up right here. We have lead and sulfur from the bones and the teeth. We're using the trusty calculator right here. We get the number 238.965. And then just like that, we now have this very big element on the periodic table, which of course is going to bring us into astronomy and the planet Uranus. And it's the U. This is why horseshoes, when you put them over the doorway, they're considered lucky. It's the U. It's you and me. And this is element number 92. It's really, really interesting. So is this what we're all about? And uranium, I say Uranus is the 8th planet. 8 is the Taurus field. It's the you and me. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the age of Aquarius, the ruler is Uranus. I know the old school will be Kronos, but once Uranus was discovered, it took over the reins, and it definitely, to me, describes Aquarius much better than Kronos does. So there you have it, uranium, tied to our bones and teeth. Is this just part of the program, right? Is this just part of the program? So getting back to the bones and teeth here, what's really interesting, because this is what it means to be a human being, besides the flesh and the blood and all the other things, the foundation, like the foundation of the house, the floors, the concrete driveway, it's the skeletal structure, it's the bones and teeth. 45, and that's a match to Pandora's box, which is what you're all in. Pandora's box is you, it's me. And then the fractal above that, it's actually Earth. That's exactly what this means right here. And remember, it's rhodium. Rhodium being 45. So how about the 45 tied to our bones and teeth? Where does that sit into the string of the golden ratio? Well, this is a big marker because it sits at digit 22 and 23 in simple math. What's 22 and 23? 45. So this is a really tightly woven source code piece here, the 45. And the 45 is tied to Pandora's box, ladies and gentlemen. So how about this final boss? Is this have anything to do with the celestial called the moon? What's really fascinating is, I'm a huge fan of the Truman Show, and I'm going to be bringing more of it out on my upcoming Decode on energy harvesting or the tree of life. I have some really big decodes coming out, ladies and gentlemen. But Ed Harris played Christ, and he was on the moon during. And I'm just not saying it's absolute, but it's interesting to look at. And then Jim Carrey has the initials JC, which is Jesus Christ. That's why he was in Yes Man. It's Yeshua Man, Jim Carrey. And I broke him all down in the Truman Show. I broke down Yes Man. Both those decodes, you can check them out. Heavily scripted. Great actor. But you see, Final Boss, when you break these two apart, it's 33 total, but it's 18 and 15. And it's so interesting because the most popular spelling of this character, which I think has been butchered, I will never use it. I think it's been butchered. It's the number 18. And ladies and gentlemen, I know the majority of people out there think Jesus astrologically through the astronomy is the sun, but take into consideration, Jesus was supposed to take your sins away. And if you study your esoteric, what was one of the names of the moon? The god of sin. That's the name of the moon. And the moon runs the tides, which means it runs water. Jesus was baptized in water. We are made up of water. And the moon is feminine. I think it's feminine. Jesus was more of a feminine character than masculine, for sure. So, the moon can walk on water at night. The moonlight can walk on water just like the sun can walk on water during the day. So is it possible? Is it very possible that Jesus is actually the moon? And the golden circle around his head would be the moon when it is on a full moon, opposite the sun. Could that be a possibility? Well, I think so, but you got to make the determination on that. And remember, I say we're all having the Jesus Christ superstar experience. So the final boss is you. And the ego through astrology is your emotions. The moon is so revered in Vedic astrology, it runs your emotions, which runs your ego. It's what you get tied to, which is why boss is 15, and in the tarot, it's the devil card. And you can clearly see one of the other alternate spellings for the moon is Luna. So, there are a lot of words that can match up in a lot of ciphers. That's why I try to just use Chaldean, because I try to keep it really tight. Because a lot of words can equal 15, 30, 29, whatever. But, when we get the pictures, I feel like we can tighten this down a little bit and then use logic and discernment here, right? So the final boss leads from the tarot to get the picture, the moon and the devil, which again, ladies and gentlemen, you got to be the best little devil you can be. You're the final boss. The voice in your head owns you, but essentially, I don't live in your life, only if you allow me to. You got to take in whatever information you want to take in and make the truth your own. But isn't it fascinating that Jim Carrey has the initials JC? He started in Yes Man, which is Yeshua Man. Ed Harris was Christoph. He was on the moon. And voila, just like that. And he's like, I'm out. Peace out. And he walks through, he does the cross, puts his hands out, does the cross before he walks through that rectangle box into the darkness. Doesn't go into the light now, goes into the darkness. But not saying that has to be absolute, but it's very interesting to say the least. So there you go. But I really think it comes down to this, ladies and gentlemen. This probably the most simplest way to observe the final boss. This reality has to do with one thing and one thing only when it comes to how we perceive it, and that is waves. Radio waves, electromagnetic waves, radiation waves, sound waves. This is what runs our reality, and you can see it's an 18. Tidal wave, ocean waves, water make waves, and it's tied to Jesus and final. So the waves, ladies and gentlemen, sound and frequency and light, it's all waves. And this 18 is really big. So again, we're having the Jesus Christ superstar experience. You got to be the best little devil you can be, right? And you got to be in control of these emotions, which through astrology, in the lens of astrology, the moon seemingly is the ruler of that, how you perceive your emotions and what you get emotionally tied to. So bringing it further into some more mathematics on this final boss Decoded, we have the 18 and the 15, and I decided to take these two numbers and just bring them together and bring it into the string of the golden ratio. Here is 1,815 digits of the golden ratio. And here's the total. This is like computer science here, right? Getting into this kind of branch. It's 8,123, and it's not just any number, it's a prime number. And it's not just any prime number, ladies and gentlemen, it's the 1,022nd prime number. And you can easily see that it goes to this element on the periodic table once again, which I've shown already, antimony, coming from the words anti-monos, which means not alone. So the voice in your head, this to me says clearly the voice in your head is what is ruling over your life. And that to me is tied to the final boss. I don't know what the voice in your head is saying. Only you know what the what the voice is saying in your head. And you don't have to tell anybody what it's saying, but your actions, obviously, that's how they say actions speak louder than words. So here it is again, just for the reminder, ladies and gentlemen, that G Biv, the acronym for the first letters of each of the 7 colors of the rainbow, is the 122. And this is how we perceive light through the brain and the processing station, the all-seeing eye of Horus. We all have this. There are no exceptions, by the way. You can't say, well, that's not, no, your brain looks like this on the inside. Everybody, you cut it in half, you get the all-seeing eye of Horus. So we have the 122 there. We have the 122 there through the golden ratio and mathematics. This is all part of the source code, ladies and gentlemen, all of it. Alchemy, golden ratio, science of numbers, astrology, all these layers here. And here's a big one for this final boss Decoded. What's very fascinating about astrology are the 10th and 4th houses, which is really interesting that they're Capricorn and Cancer, because that is what are the tropics for all of us living in this reality. The equator separating the Tropic of Cancer in the northern part and the Tropic of Capricorn in the southern part. So you have the sea goat and the crab. Capricorn being an earth sign, Cancer being a water sign. And then, of course, the opposite of that would be the ram and the the scales of justice. Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer. Those all equal 72 in numerology, which is going to be tied to Hafnium and the 72 angels and demons. And we're going to get into that in here just a little bit. But Capricorn and Cancer, ladies and gentlemen, running the tropics. Capricorn being ruled by Saturn, Cancer being ruled by the moon. Now you're going to get into some David Icke stuff. I like a lot of his research. The Saturn moon matrix. And, again, the moon running your emotions. Is the moon just a supercomputer in the sky? I say it's the server in the sky. Whatever it is, whatever that thing is, it's part of the Ark of the Covenant. It's tied to our brains. And it just so happens that Capricorn is right across the way, forming a symbiotic relationship with Cancer and the moon. And if they're 51 when you say them. So you can clearly see, this is not really trying to stretch anything at all. We go right back to alchemy again, and we get these two isotopes. These are the most abundant here, 121 and 123. And I showed how big these were in sublimation on one of my last decodes. I can't even remember which one it was because I've done so many now, but it goes right back to the brain again. And there's the golden ratio right there inside the brain, right? And the all-seeing eye, meaning not alone. So is the message coming from Saturn? Is it broadcasting something, and is it broadcasting it through the moon? Are we just all being born from the moon? I showed this in my 42 Decoded. I showed the cycle of incarnation and reincarnation. My best efforts to show you a theoretical position, by the way. I'm not saying it's absolute. But these are very, very important layers here. So let's get into the colors of the rainbow. I'm getting to the tail end of this. Thanks for sticking with me here, ladies and gentlemen. Here are the typical 7 colors of the rainbow right here, and broken down into numerology and then placed into alchemy. So this is called alchemology, where you take the letters of each word, you get the outcome, the number, and then you move it and match it with the protons of each element. You can do this with the atomic masses as well, but the protons, really are the nucleus. It's the starting point of it all. And so we have violet through red, iron through sodium. But what we have to take a look at is the middle of all this, which is green, which is balance. It's really interesting because, the word green is 20 and the word balance is 20. And, the color green sits in between 3 colors on its left and 3 colors on its right. It's really fascinating. And even if we had the black and white, which we're going to, one would sit on one end, one would sit on the other. So really, and this is the anahata, green. And it's one of the dominant colors in nature. The grass, the leaves, the trees. It's very, very interesting. And the word duality equals 20. So in duality, balance is necessary. Homeostasis is what's necessary. Neutrality fits right in here, ladies and gentlemen. And the meaning of that, neutrality, is where it's at, I feel. This is where you want to be. You want to be lukewarm. Where it says, I'll spit you out of my mouth. Well, a lot of people don't want us to be here anymore. Maybe you level up and get out of the game. It says, if you're neither hot nor cold, hot. If you're lukewarm, I'll spit you out of my mouth. I've gone over that. Well, this is balance. This would be lukewarm right here, folks. This is where I feel we should be. That's how you properly interpret that scripture, those of you that are fans of theology. But let's add in the other 2 colors to form the complete 9, the black and the white. So here are its alchemical elements attached to the numbers. Black gets sodium, white gets scandium. It's interesting, they both start with the letter S. And then what we want to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we want to add all these atomic weights. We want to add up all these elements here. We already got the 174, but what happens when we add up all the atomic masses of these elements? This one's going to put your jaw on the floor. Here you go, ladies and gentlemen. Bam! You get the keys to the universe. So we go right back to waves, sound waves, frequency, light waves. All of these elements, this is alchemology. It's alchemy blended with numerology. And then you go to the trusty calculator and you add them all up and you get 369.81. 81's tied to the tree of knowledge, by the way, those of you that are fans of that system. But the 369 is really big. I showed this many, many times. I've been showing this now for probably a couple of years. A lot of the times you can take certain words and spell them out with the periodic table. It's really fun. And this was a big standout because this is going into theology, right? I am that I am. I am. And you say this a lot. I am this. I am that. That's why I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, who's the final boss? You. Because you're going to say, I am this. Okay, you're that. Right? Don't let anybody stand in your way. Your truth is the only truth that matters. Make the truth your own. But when you add these 2 up, iodine and americium, I brought it out in my Dios Decoded. Not the first time I showed it, but I showed it during my Dios. Dios meaning God in Spanish. Well, when you add it up, when you add these up, it's 369. This is not an accident. This is part of the source code. This is how tightly woven this is with alchemy and mathematics and the golden ratio and frequencies and now the colors of the rainbow, folks. So what is the I am? It's part of the frequency of colors, right? Light is the devil, folks, and that's colors. It's just the way it is, among so many other things, but it's pretty crystal clear here. And then when you do the numerology of saying iodine and americium, you're going to get in God we trust. You're going to get that 50. 50 is 30. 50 means 50 in Spanish. 50 is the number 33. Through the numerology breakdown, 50 is tied to In God We Trust. It's right on the back of the dollar bill. The dollar bill is the United States. They're tied to Libra, obviously, so there's some referencing points to that. But this 50 is really big, tied to the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. The Tin Man was looking for his heart. I have some big information coming out with that there. That'll really blow your mind. So really, it comes down to the last stages of this presentation. Who is the final boss? So I asked the question, who is the final boss? And we get the number 69, 69 being tied to the moon, because that's the symbol of Cancer and astrology. It's the 69. 69 is right there in the moon. And that's our brain, by the way, because the 69 is the left and right hemispheres of your brain. Final boss is 33. Why I'm showing these two together? Because 69 is going to reduce down to the number 6. 6 plus 9 is 15. 1 plus 5 is 6. 33. 3 plus 3 is 6. So when we say 6, we get the 9. And the number 9 is the great repeater number. And you even get the 315, which is a permutation, which is called the number anagram of the 153, which is the total amount of fish that Christ caught in the New Testament. And 6 being tied to carbon. 6 being tied to carbon, which is what we are made up of. The last day of creation is 6. The first perfect number in mathematics is 6. The 6th house of astrology is Virgo. Virgo's the virgin. Jesus was born of a virgin. All of us are born as virgins. Okay, this is the referencing point of carbon. Carbon being the letter C. C is the third letter. That's tied to lithium. Lithium's tied to our brain because it has an average weight of 6.9. You go right back there. It's your brain. Your brain is the final boss, ladies and gentlemen. I could go on and on and on and on. It's also tied to radon with the 96, the mirror of that. Radon, the son of the morning, tied to Lucifer. Again, radon is the decay of radium. Okay, tied to Ray Dawn. The son of dawn is another word for morning time, the son of the morning. So it's Ra, morning time. Lucifer is known as the lightbringer, the son of the morning, tied to the sun, folks. Okay, so this is what it looks like, ladies and gentlemen, being carbon and being tied to you being the final boss. So again, we live in a scripted reality. Scripted reality is 47. Hangman is 47. Hangman is the 12th card. Carbon has an atomic mass of 12. This is called the king of the elements, by the way. And there's that 6. Just go right back there. The final boss ends up becoming the number 6. Who is the final boss? 6 reduces down to the 6, which is carbon. So it's tied to this right here. 6 plus 12 is 18. Remember that moon is 18, okay? And then you have magnesium here having 12 protons, and this is the icon used to describe magnesium. It's the Magnus. It's the all-seeing eye right there. This supplement, magnesium, is amazing to take before you go to sleep at night, but there's so many other pieces to this. And then just right here, the 1, 2, and 6. What is that? That's the 126, and we just go right back to up here, and we get the 126 with I, one half of the I am. It's really simple to see. And then you get the house of Pisces and the house of Virgo right here in astrology sitting across from one another. So the final boss is the 33, and it's just really interesting that the words free will has the same numerology output. So the question is, ladies and gentlemen, do you believe that you have free will? Now, I would say the majority of you would say yes. Yes, I do. Now, there are a few people I know that believe that you do not. But again, the answer should only come from what you believe, because you got to make the truth your own. But it's really fascinating that they both equal the number 33. But here we ask another question, or we make a statement. Free will is an illusion. And you get the 72. 72 is tied to this element called hafnium. That's the reason why I have the puppet on strings and I have the black and white here, the devil and the angel right here, is because in the story of the 72 angels and demons in theology, used by Judaism and the Society of Jesus, they say you have the angels and demons running this reality. The black and the white, the yin and the yang, your ego and your spirit, the sun and the moon inside of you. This is really a big deal here, ladies and gentlemen. So are we just being ruled over by the black and the white? And is free will just an illusion here? Well, this 72 is really interesting when you say hafnium. Hafnium is 30, role play is 30. I mean, this is tied to the 72 angels and demons, folks. It's 30, role play is 30, demiurge is 30. Demi meaning 2. 72 is the angels and demons, meaning 2. You know, one is feminine, one is masculine. Okay, these are pretty good examples to take into consideration here. I'm not saying these are absolutes, but again, the support is really overwhelming through over 400 decodes now of what I've been showing. And so how about this 72 bringing it into the string of the golden ratio to measure it again against the principles of the golden ratio? 72, we got to go 39 digits into the string of the golden ratio, and we have a total outcome of 197. And 197 is a big deal because it's the 45th prime number. And 45 is tied to these big words. Again, using just Chaldean numerology. Once you add more layers, more ciphers, you have better chances of increasing your odds at connecting more words and number. So I feel like using just one cipher is the best way to establish your foundation. And there's the 45 through possession. There's the 45 through mind control. Even fallen angels equals 45. And the element gold, one of its isotopes, 197. There it is. So this is why I feel like mankind's being used, and it's ego and spirit. It's the sun and the moon, masculine and feminine. One's hot, one's cold. One's good, one's evil, etc., etc. And there's fractals in both of those. And obviously this doesn't get any more clear than this. Pandora's box being 45. What is Pandora's box? It's your brain. And then the fractal above that, it's Earth. Earth is Pandora's box. It's just a Mandelbrot set in this reality. And 45's tied to rhodium. Remember I showed how big this was. Rhodium is the 45. It's the rosy cross, the bees that gives the rose that gives the bees honey. It's your brain. The angels and demons, the energy, the constructs of the supernatural running this reality, controlling it remotely, being able to enter any avatar that it wants at any time. That's how I feel this reality works. And the mathematics to me support this in overwhelming ways. Supports this here. So the tail end of this decode, ladies and gentlemen, the final boss through the tarot here. You know, you being the final boss. The 33rd card in the deck. How very fitting it's this card right here called the Page of Wands. And this Page of Wands is male-female. It's androgynous, right? So it would be male-female principle. So it's going to represent you. It's going to represent me. And it wants to go on adventures. And, you know, if you just go to this website right here called Teach Me Tarot, I'm going to leave this description in the description in the video link for all of you to click on this. But look at what it says, the free spirit. And you go down and you read about what it means to be the Page of Wands. When you get this in a tarot reading, man, it's like, hey, man, it's time to go on an adventure. It's time to be adventurous. It's time to really kind of grab that staff and, you know, go out there and have some fun. And this is exactly what it means to live life, ladies and gentlemen. 33 was the age that Christ was crucified at. It's just so fascinating how this all fits, and it's tied to free will. And this card wants to go on adventures using perhaps free will, right? Like when you go on vacation, you know, some of you have synchronicities when you go on vacation. So did you plan that vacation? How did you get those synchronizations when you went on vacation? Those signs and symbols like, man, I couldn't believe it happened to me. I met this person and it all just lined up this way. Well, how do you do that through free will? It's really interesting concepts to take into consideration, but this is pretty interesting here about being the final boss and going on these adventures with the tarot here. And what's really interesting further with this Page of Wands is when you say it, it's the 51, and we go right back to this element called antimony, which means not alone. So do we have any free will? I say if we do have any, it's very little. My life has been continually lived out as a scripted reality. I've been observing it. Maybe you've been doing the same. And I would be completely irresponsible for saying that my life's not scripted, because I can clearly see that it is. So I feel like we have limited free will, but ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, you are the final boss. No matter if something's using you or not, your reality is the only reality that matters. You're the star of the movie. You have your entourage, you have the people that are closest to you. That's it. That's your movie. I'm just here. I'm an extra in your movie, showing you some ways here. So counting down to the end of this here, it's all about life and death. It's life and death is 36, and it's tied to the word operating, right? As being a final boss here. This whole reality is based on death and regeneration, life and death, 36. 36 tied to operating, as in the operating system. System is 20, duality is 20. Okay, and it's a total of 56, which is, again, going right back to that lights, camera, action. This is what runs this reality. So no matter if you believe you're the control of your entire reality, you still have to live out your movie here. And you got to make it fun. I would hope so. How do you make your life the most fun? Turning off as much things that are interference in your life. That, to me, is the way to level up and have the best experience that you possibly can. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the final boss decoded. What is it that you saw during this presentation. I hope you like this one. This one I worked on for many hours past what I thought I was going to. But I really had a lot of fun decoding this one. I have some big time decodes coming out, ladies and gentlemen, in the next upcoming weeks. Stick around for some of these big ones. Even if the title doesn't interest you, I promise you there's going to be some diamonds in the rough in some of this information I got coming out to really clarify how this reality works, to show you we're inside of a computer. However that looks and however that works, I'm going to be supporting that moving through the upcoming decodes I have coming out. Would love to hear what you saw. Keep your comments coming. Just keep them cordial. I will delete any kind of negativity, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to be an ass to put out your comments there. You don't have to agree with everything that I say. You shouldn't. Be skeptical. Do your own research. All that matters is making the truth your own. That is my final answer as being the final boss. So ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for today. My name is Logan for Decode Your Reality. Until next time, we will see you later.